Yesterday we talked about prepositional phrases, and today we're going to take a look at prepositional phrases and break those into two different kinds of prepositional phrases. The first one that we're going to look at today is the adjective phrase. An adjective phrase is a prepositional phrase that modifies a noun or a pronoun. Just like an adjective was a describing word that described a noun or a pronoun, it's the same thing with an adjective phrase. It's just a group of words. So it's a prepositional phrase that does the same thing that an adjective does. For example, the members of the club want sweatshirts with the club emblem. Of the club modifies the noun members, and with the club emblem is describing the noun sweatshirts. So which members? The members of the club. What kind of sweatshirts? Ones with the club emblem. So you're using this prepositional phrase as you would an adjective. It would be the same as if we said they want blue sweatshirts. They want sweatshirts with the club emblem. It's still a word or word phrase that's describing the noun sweatshirts. Usually, notice in the example that I just gave you, when it's a one-word adjective, it comes before the noun. So I said the blue sweatshirts. But when it's an adjective phrase, it almost always has to follow the noun. So instead, I said sweatshirts with the blue or with the club emblem, and that came after the noun sweatshirts. So here's another example. If I just want to use a one-word adjective, I could say, Amy closed the cellar door. Which door am I talking about? The cellar door here is our one-word adjective. However, if I wanted to use an adjective phrase, I would put it in a different part of the sentence. Amy closed the door to the cellar. Now, to the cellar is my adjective phrase, still telling me which door. It's still acting as an adjective, but it has to come after the noun that it's describing now because it is an adjective phrase. You can have more than one adjective phrase that modifies the same word. Just want to be careful not to make your sentence too bogged down and too wordy. But usually you can throw a couple of them in there and it won't seem too crazy. So here is an example. Here is a letter for you from Aunt Martha. The first prepositional phrase that you see is for you, and the second prepositional phrase is from Aunt Martha. Both of these prepositional phrases are acting as adjectives that describe the letter. Which letter? The one for you. Which letter? The one from Aunt Martha. So both for you and from Aunt Martha modify the noun letter. It can also modify the object of another prepositional phrase. Let's look at an example here. The horse in the trailer with the rusted latch broke loose. In the trailer is the first prepositional phrase you see. With the rusted latch is the second. In the trailer modifies the word horse. But with the rusted latch, it's not the horse that has a rusted latch. That would be weird. The rusted latch belongs to the trailer. So in the trailer is an adjective phrase describing the horse. With the rusted latch is an adjective phrase describing the trailer. And trailer is the object of this first prepositional phrase. You can take an adjective phrase and turn it into a one-word adjective. It makes your writing more concise, which is kind of nice sometimes. It doesn't always work, and we'll look at, on the next slide, we'll look at one that makes it a little awkward. But most of the time, you can go ahead and convert those. So let's look at a couple of sentences here. On the left, we have adjective phrases. On the right, we've written the same sentence, but used it as a noun, used as an adjective. So in the first sentence, we have the light in the kitchen is on. In the kitchen is an adjective phrase that tells us which light we're talking about. I could make my writing much more concise by just saying the kitchen light is on. Which light am I talking about? It's the kitchen light. It's still the one in the kitchen, but I made it evident in a much more concise way. The same thing with the second sentence. The airports in Chicago and New York are crowded. I could turn that around and just say the Chicago and New York airports are crowded. Took out one word in the sentence, but it does make it a little more concise. Remember, though, that I said you can't always do that. Sometimes it makes your writing pretty awkward to take it from an adjective phrase and try and just make it a one-word adjective. And so in that case, it's best to just leave it as as an adjective phrase. So we have this sentence, please hand me the book on the table. Pretty straightforward, sounds pretty good, it's a pretty well written sentence. Which book are we talking about? The one on the table. However, I cannot take on the table, which is my adjective phrase, and turn it into a one-word adjective in this sentence because it makes it awkward. If I say, please hand me the table book, that is not the same sentence, and that sounds a little awkward. It just doesn't quite sound right. So you want to make sure that you are being clear and that you are writing the best sentence that you can, and sometimes it's best to use an adjective phrase even though it's not as concise as writing a one-word adjective.